Pierre, we know that Scheifele in Winnipeg was now asked about Austin Matthews and Connor McDavid. He gave his thoughts. Obviously, he feels that Matthews is a great player, but is not at McDavid's level yet. And I'm not here to ask you who's better. But Gord and I were good. But Gord and I were just discussing this. It doesn't matter if you're going to have the who's better or not conversation. Isn't it just great that we're having this conversation at all, that we even have these dynamic players to be talking about?
Yeah, no, it's great for the game. It's very reminiscent of, when Crosby and Ovechkin came in together in 05-06, right? I mean, there's no better salesmanship for the NHL right now than what McDavid and Matthews are doing. And don't forget the other kids around them, from Eichel to Laine to Gujo and everything else. It's a terrific wave right now again for the league. And, Craig Custance just did a piece of The Athletic on Team North America from the World Cup of Hockey, sort of recounting that great game against Sweden. And it was incredible how the players on that team, including Matthews and McDavid, Nate McKinnon, were so excited to talk about it. But in the bigger picture, again, it represents how crazy this wave of young stars hitting this league at the same time really is. It's awesome.
I want to read you a tweet. The NHL system is flawed. Top players are underpaid. McDavid should be getting $20 million a year, but it's not the system/culture that exists. Pros and cons to that, but all I can say is, in my humble opinion, is that elite NHLers don't get what they should for what they bring in. Who's the knucklehead who tweeted that out?
That would be me last night. I've said this before on radio, but I guess I never tweeted it before. But I really do believe that. The NHL, for some reason, has it very differently split up than the NBA, and I think the NBA has it right. I think the players that sell tickets should make the most money, and for whatever reason, guys like McDavid and eventually Matthews, and Sidney Crosby over the years have made an amount that I think is way below what they represent in terms of selling the game. And, second and third liners, support players make more probably than they should.
Well, Pierre,
it's not going to make me popular with some players, I guess, but
it underlines something. I mean, the difference in the NBA, of course, and the NFL is they have a softer cap. The NHL has a hard cap, or there's no way around it. In the NBA, if you re-sign your own player, there's the Larry Bird exemption. In the NFL, guys like Tom Brady can restructure their contracts to make more cap room. I really believe, I don't like the salary cap, I've made that clear, but I really believe that at the very least, some kind of exemption when you sign your own player. Whether you want to make it an exemption for one player or two, or guys who have been with the team for 5 years, there has to be some kind of accommodation for teams to keep their own players, doesn't there?
Well, I think the Leafs will vote for your solution now.
And I'm not saying it because it's Toronto. I'm saying it because Chicago had to break up their team, because LA had to break up their team, because Boston, in a sense, had to break up their team, because Pittsburgh's had to do it. It's not fair.
Mm-hmm. No, and that is the problem with the cap system, the hard cap system. I think, Gord, I don't have to tell you, trying to convince Gary Bettman and the executive committee of the Board of Governors that they should soften the cap. Well, good luck with that. But I agree with you. I mean that's the, and again, I'm not kidding. I think Connor McDavid's underpaid. I mean, I really do. I don't care what you think of that. I'm just telling you that, he's making $12.5 million, and there's a lot of players around the league making just $2 or $3 billion less than him that are not nearly as close to him talent-wise. It's not the math doesn't work when you look at the talent gap between guys like McDavid and Matthews and other players.
Yeah, Pierre, I had brought that up a couple weeks ago about the NBA system and how maybe the NHL should adopt something like that, where you have the upper class, the lower class, and the middle class is just kind of not there. But, the more because I agree with you, I do think star players should be making way more, and I think sometimes, the other guys should not. But then you talk it out, you look at it, and you look at Phil Kessel as an example. He was signed as a top guy in Toronto, only to have that contract traded, and clearly he doesn't have that role in Pittsburgh. You have this third-line guy. He's further down the lineup making $8 million. And I know there's a part of you that's like, well, that doesn't make sense when you have Crosby and you have Malkin and, your young goalie and Matt Murray should be getting paid. but that deal wasn't signed by Pittsburgh. That deal was signed by Toronto. So you can see how it starts to get muddy with teams with the salary.
Kessel scored more playoff goals in 2 years than anyone else in the league.
No, and I get that. And I see what you're saying, but I'm just, a lot of times when you do look at that, like the trades that happen, the moves, the other teams that sign players to these deals, and then they get moved. Like if somebody picks up Milan Lucic's contract, I don't know.
Right.
Like that was a deal signed by Edmonton, and maybe he has a much lesser role with whoever picks him up, but that's the number. It gets muddy.
And for what it's worth, I mean, Kane and Taves signed for less than what they could have at the time when they signed their deals, and poor Sidney Crosby over the years. And I can tell you that Sidney Crosby will never complain about the money that he's made because he's always wanted the Penguins to have as flexible a roster as possible to win more championships. I mean, so that's why these guys do it. And we know the story with Connor McDavid. He could have made more in his extension with the Oilers and thought that the number needed to be reasonable so that they could beef up that roster. I mean, that's what makes hockey players, and so certainly you're never going to catch these guys complaining about what they make. It's me complaining because I think they've got the league on their back selling this game, and you look at athletes of equal talent in other sports, and they're raking it in at a much higher level.